Hi, this is a statistics video on how we display data using stem and leaf plots. Our question might be like this one: display the data below in the form of a stem and leaf plot. Now these are all two-digit numbers here, and so we're going to have a stem and leaf plot which effectively takes the tens column of each number and splits it up from the units column in each instance. We'll see how that works. So we'll have a stem, and we'll have a look at the smallest number here. I think the lowest number is 53 here, if we look carefully. The highest number, we have a 94. So we'll need a stem of 5 to indicate all the 50s. They'll be lined up on that the top row. We'll need 60s, 70s, 80s and 90s, and all the 90s will be lined up on the bottom row here. So we'll need a stem with 5 through to 9 in it. 5, 6s, 70s, 80s and 90s. And we're going to then put on this stem and leaf plot, we're going to insert all the units here one at a time. So we'll take that first number, and what we're compiling here is what we call an unordered stem and leaf plot. We won't worry about the order that these numbers are going in at first, and then in the second stage of our work we'll put them in the right order to finalize our proper stem and leaf plot. So this is like a working copy, this one, where we're just processing each number as it comes, and then we'll sort them in the right order as our second stage. Let's have a look. So we'll cross off our 84. Now to indicate 84, we'll put a 4 in the leaf section right next to a stem of 8. So a combination of that 8 in the stem and that 4 in the leaf makes our number 84. So it's a strange sort of a thing. We're splitting up each two-digit number into two separate bits. We cross off 68. Now to make 68, we'll need to put an 8 as the leaf to our stem of 6 to make 68 together. So we'll keep that process going. To display 53 on a stem and leaf, we'll need a 3 in the leaf section next to the stem of 5. So 79, we'll need a 9 next to the 7. 72, we'll put a 2 there. So this section here indicates we've got 79 and 72 on that row so far. 87, we'll need a 7 next to the 8 there. 69, we'll put the 9 next to the stem of 6 there. 65 on that same row. 70, we're putting a 0 in the 7's row. 89, we'll need a 9 in the 8's row. 94, we'll put a 4 down in the 90s. 72, another 2 on the 70s. You notice there's 2 of those now. 90, we'll put a 0 in the 9 section. 85, we'll add a 5 to the leaf section of 80s. 83, we need that. So we've pieced that together there. There are, I think there's a total of 15. Let me just add that 3, 4, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, 15 scores here. So yeah, they split up the tens and the units section to create our unordered stem and leaf plot. Now these are out of order. We've got our 84 here and then 89, but then we've got 83 later on. So to be polite and to get all the marks we can from this section, we'll need to be able to put them into an ordered stem and leaf plot. So that we'll take each row and put them in order going from left to right. If we go from left smallest to right biggest, smallest biggest here, we will just rearrange these rows on our ordered stem and leaf plot. Let's see how we work here. Now when we order 53, there's not a lot of work to be done because 53 is the only number in the 50s, so there's no drama there. In the 60s though, you can see that these are out of order here. We've got an 8 and then a 9 then a 5. We're going to put the 5 first, then the 8, then the 9. So we'll go from lowest to highest on that particular row. So that's the 60s are now 65, 68, 69. So we're going from smallest here to biggest across there in each row. Now if we reorder the 7s here, we should have a 70, then a 72, then another 72, then a 79. Can you see how it works? So that's in order from smallest to largest in each row now. Smallest in the 80s here is 83, then 84, then 85, then 87, then 89. And in the 90s, we just got to swap those around to have 90 first, then 94 next. So that's our final ordered stem and leaf plot. So this first box here, the unordered one, that's just to get all our numbers put on a stem and leaf format, and then we move them across and put them in the right order from left to right there. So that's a single stem and leaf plot. It displays the data, and what it helps us to do is to sort of see that there's more scores in the 80s here than there are in the 60s or the 50s. We can see the highest score nice and clearly, we can see the lowest score nice and clearly, and sometimes we're asked to find the median and the range and things from this stem and leaf plot. So it just helps us to sort out what the nature of the data is just by displaying it in an interesting way there. Now every now and again we get a double stem and leaf plot. This is a bit interesting. These are a test that two classes have sat for, and we've got the results all on the one double stem and leaf plot. You can see that the left hand side here has the A class scores, and the right hand side has the B class scores. Alright, so you'll notice an interesting thing when we do a double stem and leaf plot, that usually on the right hand side the numbers go from lowest to highest outwards from left to right, but it's like we've mirror reversed it for the left hand side. The scores are going from right to left, lowest to highest on that left hand side, whereas on the right hand side, like the previous example, they're going from left to right, lowest to highest. So that's one difference with a double stem and leaf plot. And we have the A class scores and the B class scores here. Just to clarify that you know everything about this, we'll just write down, last time we went from scores to the stem and leaf plot. Here where I want you just to be aware that we can go from the stem and leaf plot to the original scores themselves. So I just wanted to show you that here we have a stem of 5 and a leaf of 2, so that would create scores of 52. Then if we checked out the next one, another 52. Here we've got a 55, then a 57 if we took a tens of that, and a units of 7, and then a 58. Can you see here all those numbers there? I'll just put commas in between them just so you can see them more clearly. So we kind of read from right to left there. It's a bit unusual. And if we had to write out the scores from the 60s here, I'll just do this a bit quicker. We've got a 60, we've got a 63, we've got a 66, and two 68s here and here. We have a 73, don't get these out in the wrong order here, and we have nothing in the 80s and nothing in the 90s. If this was an 80, it would have a 0 there, but seeing nothing is occurring in the 80s and 90s, that's it. If we had to write out the original scores from the A class. It's a little easier in the B class because we're used to having the tens to the left and the units column to the right. So if we're writing out these numbers, we'd have 63 there, 75, then another 75, then another 75 if we're writing out those scores. Here we have 83. Can you see 84? Oh, hang on, stuff that up, sorry. 84, 85, 87 and 89. And we do have some items in the 9s there. We have 90 and 94. So yeah, we've seen a couple of examples there. A single stem and leaf plot example earlier on, and where we went from the scores to compiling a display in the stem and leaf plot. Here we started off to show you in the second example that we have a double stem and leaf plot. It acts a bit differently on the left hand side. Goes kind of from the stem outwards as far as lowest to highest scores go, but it's good for you to see that we can go back to the original data if we're careful, having these stem bits making up our tens column of each of the 2-digit numbers, and the leaf section here and here making up our units column of our 2-digit numbers. So they're quite interesting stem and leaf plots, and you can see a lot of data and a lot about the nature of that data very quickly using stem and leaf plots. So I hope that helps. That gives you a bit of a rundown of how stem and leaf plots work, both single stem and leaf plots and double stem and leaf plots. Remember, we want in the end to have these in order from lowest to highest, so sometimes we do an unordered one followed by an ordered one. So that's stem and leaf plots. Thanks so much for listening. We'll catch you next time on peterblakemaths.com.